The ocean is beautiful and we love to spend time in it, but how clean is it? You can't always tell by looking, so a team of researchers and community partners are testing the waters in Maunalua Bay on Oahu's south shore. With more than 60,000 people living above it, lots of things end up in the bay besides us. Sometimes it's trash, sometimes it's sediment or oil, and sometimes it's invisible, like fertilizer or waste leaching in from groundwater. A team of scientists, community groups, and members of the public collected an extensive set of water samples from across Maunalua Bay, and thanks to funding from the State Department of Health, it's one of the largest water quality data sets in the state.
There are a lot of issues we see in Maunalua Bay region. You have cesspools and septic tanks that are unfortunately getting into the groundwater, making it out to the bay, hurting human health as they get into the bay, gets into the fish. You have pollution, you have sedimentation. There's a whole host of issues with having this much urban area right along the water. And so there's just lots of runoff and pollution that reaches the bay.
Most people have never sampled as densely as we are, but over such a large area. What we're doing is we're taking both surface and benthic samples, meaning we're going to take a sample at the surface and then we're going to try to get as close to the bottom as we can. And that's because the groundwater is coming up from the bottom. And so that Niskin right there is used, it slaps shut when we send down a trigger. And so as soon as we're on the bottom, we're collecting a sample on the bottom. My main job is to figure out what the water quality is in situ, because the parameters might change a little bit before we get back to the lab. So our handy dandy YSI right here will measure conductivity, pH, dissolved oxygen, temperature, and turbidity.
At each site, the team sampled the acidity of the water, which can reduce coral growth, for nutrients, which can be a little too good for algae, and for suspended sediment, which reduces water clarity. The team also measured for microbes, pharmaceuticals, and other pollutants. The reef rock can be flat or sand and is covered with organisms, different species of algae and coral. Across the bay, the team collected 80 samples offshore and another 80 samples in nearshore areas and at stream mouths. In the lab, the water samples are tested for chemicals, sewage, bacteria, and other pollutants. These data will help managers decide where to take actions on land to clean up the water in the bay.
So once we collected all the water samples, they come into our lab and we filter them. And then they go through a whole set of different analyses. Right now we are collecting the filters for DNA analysis, but there's a whole lot of other processes. They all together give us a very good idea of the geochemistry and microbiology of the water.
And we're looking for signatures of human impacts on the system that would be good targets for management action. Evidence of, for instance, high turbidity in some areas that are coming down from stormwater drainages might be an area where we could actually take management action on land that would change the parameters that we see in the water and would allow us to shift the health of the ecosystem from a more eroded state to a healthier state.
Most people interact with their ocean here in Hawaii because it's the life, right? It's what gives us life. And so when you're out and in the ocean, if you're asking that kind of question, make sure that that voice can come up, right? Come to a community meeting, go to your neighborhood board, start asking questions. And I think you'd be surprised that there are often academic partners who are ready to respond to that ask.
Climate change is a massive global issue, but to be able to address it, it takes government, nonprofits, universities, individuals, residents, everyone to come together with a singular focus of doing what we can to protect what we can while we still have it.
Even when water looks crystal clear, it may contain certain pollutants that can harm corals, fish, and people. With this extensive water sampling project, we can identify the areas of concern so the community can make a plan to take action. Together, we can heal Maunalua Bay.